So here we are, an unexpected Friday Live. Now, we probably mentioned this before, even though we do like to drink a little bit of beer on the show when we do a Friday Live show. We're not real big drinkers, so we don't generally have just lots of alcohol laying around.
I had a sweet tea earlier.
Yeah, we usually have to go out of our way to buy it for the show. So just last minute, I don't have anything to drink. So I'm having chocolate milk, and yes, I am wearing my pajamas. These are Elmo pajamas.
I remember when I got those because Mateo was going through an Elmo phase.
Right.
And I thought, oh, it'd be so cute if you wore Elmo jammies.
But I got my Calavera shirt on, so I am woodworking from the waist up. Makes sense. Who's dinging us on the
I should
instant
probably
messages?
So when I turn my computer off and then I boot it back up, usually I only have this in the shop, so everything comes through.
Oh, you're finally getting it's catching up with all your.
So I'll just mute everything.
Cool. Okay, so let's get into this stuff. Happy Friday, everybody. I'm Marc Spagnolo.
I'm Nicole Spagnolo.
She's my trusty sidekick.
Yes.
Can I refer to you as that?
No.
You're the Robin to my Batman?
I'm Batman.
And I'm your Robin. Okay. I like that. And we do this show every Friday, sometimes in the evening like this, just to talk about woodworking, hang out with you guys, see what you're up to.
Mm-hmm. And you forgive me, you'll see me looking at different things. I'm monitoring the baby.
We've got a baby monitor here.
Who's currently just, she's not crying.
We've got a 5-year-old putting a Lego together who will probably at some point be sitting in a chair that we set up for him, so he will hopefully not interrupt us. So let's get to the woodworking stuff, shall we?
Aww.
So very quickly, we are having another sale. This is going through all the way through Christmas. The Greene and Greene blanket chest is what's on sale.
That has the hidden...
It's got the hidden drawer. You know what I got to do? A quick video to show that hidden drawer, and people are going to buy the heck out of that thing. People love hidden drawers.
It's great. We have it right in front of our bed.
Yeah, I mean, it works great.
Mateo likes to hide in it sometimes.
It's really sturdy.
It is sturdy.
You know, it takes a beating, that's for sure.
It's a great
but go to the Wood Whisperer Guild. Millie, you trip over my wires, girl, we're going to have a problem.
Millie, lay down.
Yeah, thewoodwhispererguild.com if you want to check that out. It's 30% off just this weekend only. Anything we have to get out of the way before questions?
Oh, happy anniversary, honey.
Oh, happy anniversary to you as well.
Yesterday was our 14th anniversary, though we've been together for 16 years. We were engaged for 2.
Right.
And then we got married and it was 14. But I wanted to share a fun gift that I got.
Oh yeah, bring it up.
So I would like for you to make a frame for it, so it's kind of...
But it already has a frame.
I know, but it's a crappy frame from Michael's.
My frame making days are over, sister. Been there, done that.
So I got this for Marc.
This is so cool.
And it's called the Night Sky, and you can get it in different, like they have like a dark gray and a light gray, and you can do different kinds of what the sky looked like. You put in the location, so I put in the night we got married in Temecula, California, and then you put in the date, and it does all that fun stuff, and then you can put a little saying on there.
That's sweet.
So, if you're looking for a, hey guys, it's a very thoughtful gift.
It's a very romantic gift. You little romantic.
I know.
You're a little romantic girl.
I know,
okay.
Right? You would think it's our 20th anniversary.
You know what I got her? A triple crock pot, baby.
It was awesome.
3 crock pots in one.
I didn't even look at him like, yay, I asked for that, I got it, yay. And you make me stuff all the time.
Yeah,
so.
Well, when Nicole asks for something, you get it. She doesn't ask for things very often. All right, let's get into the meat of the topic today. Now, I did want to talk a little bit about finishes, just very briefly, because I did a talk this past week at the Colorado Woodworkers Association.
Oh, yeah.
And I did a little preview video, and a lot of people were like, well, why don't you do a video about that topic? You know, because they were intrigued by some of the samples I had on hand. So I'm going to show you some cool stuff. Friday Live.
Peppercock says, so you guys met and proposed right away? Pretty close.
Pretty much, yeah.
After 5 months.
I saw that.
I knew.
I said, I better put a ring on that. That's what happened.
He was the only guy that I'm going to marry that guy.
Well, I knew we wanted to get married. I just wasn't sure, like, we kind of were like, well, wait, why are we rushing into this? But I knew it was...
That's why we're engaged for 2 years.
Yeah, so we stayed engaged for a long time. So, what I have here are some fun little samples. I think you guys are going to like this.
Samples.
So, the purpose of this was 2 things. I wanted to show you how the finish cures, and then, of course, also what it looks like when it cures. So a lot of times we wonder what these things will do to a light-colored wood, let's say. Does it bring a lot of color to the party? And also, we talked about durability and stuff like that. Well, what do these things actually do as they cure up? Are they hard? Is one softer than the other? So these are just some samples, and I do have some extremes here. This is boiled linseed oil. Now this sample has had, boy, 6 months probably to cure. All right, now of course boiled linseed oil is not really going to cure in this kind of format. You know, it needs more air and you need it in very thin layers. So it's got a little bit of a film, but you could see it actually from falling over, slowly but surely, like a lava flow. It just kind of goes over to the side. But you can kind of get an idea of what the color is. Danish oil is an oil varnish blend, but you could see, maybe you can't see, but it's still very soft. If I punctured my finger through here, I'd probably get to more liquid. So even though this does have some varnish in it, it's got such a high oil component to it that it's still very soft and requires a very similar set of conditions to cure that the boiled linseed oil does. Here are a couple of these lighter colored ones, wipe-on polyurethanes. So we've got Minwax wipe-on poly, and then you have Armor Seal, two very popular finishes. And check them out, they're both very similar in final color. They're both similar in terms of how hard they are, just pinching it with my fingers. They're both about the same hardness. This is it just kind of feels like a Jolly Rancher. It just feels like candy. Okay.
Everybody can see your Elmo pants now.
Like that? You like it? All right, let's see, what else do we have? Let's go to Waterlox. So we have Waterlox Sealer on this side, and we have Waterlox Top Coat. Pretty similar in color, right? And I think the sealer feels a little bit softer than the top coat. Top coat's a little bit more, no, they're about the same.
How long have Donna wants to know how long these have set up?
About 6 months.
6 months.
So they're about the same. There's a springiness to it, but it does, you might see that softness or springiness, more gelatinous sort of feel to it might be a bad thing, but that's actually what makes a finish durable. It means it can expand and contract with the wood. It means that it isn't going to crack and be brittle, right? So that's what Waterlox does. And then we have a Minwax Spar Varnish. And this one is softest of all. This kind of has a rubbery feel to it when I pinch it. And that's what you would expect. This is an outdoor finish. So you need it to be able to move and expand and contract with the wood. Right, but I think it's really interesting when you put them all in a line like this, just to kind of see how different the colors. Oh, by the way, you're probably wondering, this is Danish oil, but it's the walnut color Danish oil. Normal Danish oil would probably look more like this, right? So in case you're wondering why that's so dark. But you can see the variety of colors. And in some of the tests that we've done in the past would probably be consistent if you put these finishes on maple, let's say. You could kind of predict what the color is going to do based on what this thick version of the dried resin is starting to look like.
Frank wants to know, you aren't supposed to shake stain, but if you're going to put it on with a rag, can you get by with shaking it?
Yeah. I mean, I've shaken stain. I don't mind shaking my stain once in a while. What he's worried about, or what people are worried about with shaking, is putting a lot of bubbles in the mixture, and if it's a top coat, that could be problematic, so you're better off stirring instead of shaking. But even if you were brushing on a stain, I don't know that it matters very much if you shake it, because you're usually brushing stain on very thin.
Shake it,
shake it. Okay.
Shake it like
a Minwax stain. So, yeah, I mean, go ahead, shake it all day long. Okay, so should I get to questions?
I do have a question for Matt Powers about the Greene and Greene blanket chest. Would it be okay to make a secret drawer on the other side? Would it be stable enough with the addition of the inside?
I would have to look at the design because I don't remember.
Did both.
Yeah, I think someone did do both. The point is, by putting the drawer in the base like that, you actually sacrifice some of the structural integrity, and you have to build a compartment for the drawer. I would have to, before I give you a firm answer, I'd need to look at the drawing, but there's got to be a way to do it.
I swear I've seen a guild member do
both sides. Because you're only bringing your support in the depth of the drawer, right? Which isn't that much. So I think it'll be okay.
Yep. Everybody's talking about your chocolate milk.
This is chocolate milk from the Longmont Dairy Farm. We actually, when we moved here, our neighbors have a delivery service, Jim and Maha, and they get their milk delivered. And this turned out to be a really cool thing.
It was affordable too.
It was actually affordable. And the one thing we go out like most frequently for is to buy milk. So the milk gets delivered, gets put into a thermos, and it's a local dairy, and they have some of the most amazing chocolate milk. It's so thick.
They gave us a free sample, and they hooked Marc.
Yeah, the first one's always free. First taste is free. And I've been hooked on it. And I mean, we haven't had it in a while because you get too much bad thing. But I actually dilute it with a little bit of regular milk because it's so thick. It's like a melted chocolate fudgesicle. Yeah. Okay, so first question I have here is from Landon. Now, by the way, these questions that I have on the paper are coming from Patreon. That's patreon.com/woodwhisperer if you want to help out the show and get some priority service for your questions. But Nicole also gets questions from the chat room, the YouTube chat room specifically. Landon says, I made some dowel stock out of African mahogany to use as pins on a breadboard, and the top is also made out of mahogany. I cut the stock so that I would have long grain on the face to try to grain match and hide the pins. Normally the pins are end grain showing up so they're more visible. I'm using the drawbore technique from the Rubo Guild build, but I'm having problems with the pins shearing off when they've been driven in about halfway. Is this just a strength and hardness issue that I should expect with African mahogany, or could I be doing something wrong? Assuming I understand what you're describing, Landon, the solution is obvious. You are making face grain plugs and they're not strong. All right, so you're trying to get that grain match, but in effect, what you have is a bunch of very easily separatable pieces of material in this stack, right? Just the way the grain direction is running. That's why dowels are the preferred solution. You want your grain running up through that hole and through the drawbore. If the grain is running with the directionality of the tabletop surface, you could just, like if you took that piece, you should be able to snap that, no problem. But if you take a dowel piece and try to snap that with the grain running in the proper direction, you're not going to be able to snap it with your fingers, at least not easily. All right, so if I understand your problem correctly, you're just cutting, the orientation is off. Now, what you're trying to do with matching the grain might not be something you can do. Consider as an alternative, making your dowels go through, like a regular dowel, make it go through, but make them so they're shy of the thickness, and try to punch it in a little bit deeper so it's just under the surface. Then, if you want, maybe cut your face grain plugs and glue those in on top. All right, those just have to be superficial. You don't have to have them going very deep. That might be a solution to your problem. All right, next one is from Mike Davies. He says he often finds himself doing parts of a project or putting off parts of a project that he doesn't enjoy as much as others and turning to a quick win project that he can nail out in just a couple of hours. He says, obviously, it means that the main project he's working on takes even longer to complete. I know there's no right way to do woodworking, but if you weren't in the business of content creation, are you the kind of person who would just plow through and finish one thing before turning your attention to the next thing? Would you have multiple projects on the go? Or would you just go for the quick wins? What do you think I would do?
I think it's a very good question. He has a problem moving on to another project when one is not finished. So he will finish the project. He won't plow through it.
That's right.
He'll just...
I don't like unresolved things.
You'll take the time, but you'll pull it from other places. So...
Like my butt?
No, like at night, or honey, I have to work this weekend, or honey, I need to work tonight.
We figure it out.
Yeah, so it's...
Yeah, I absolutely want to see a project done. There was a point a couple weeks ago where the garden gate was here. There were like two or three things.
The picture frames.
Picture frames were going on.
Like three things?
Yeah, Cremona had just left.
It was like his brain.
None of the projects were completed. So the garden gate had to be done. The picture frames had to be done. We had some other obligations. My brain was fried. I cannot do that. So the people who have this problem where you just never finish a project, that's not me.
No.
I have no problem with that. I love finishing a project, wiping the slate clean, and starting the next one.
Ben says he will whine about chairs on Wood Talk for 3 weeks straight, though.
That's true. That is true. Keith Forrest wrote in. He says, Mark, if there was no price difference between the JDS multirouter that you used at William Ing's and your Domino, which would you choose and why? If there were no price difference. Okay, well, bottom line is the multirouter can do more, right? It has a lot of other things that it can do. But it depends on why I'm buying this tool. If I'm buying it to make mortise and tenon joints as like a primary thing, hands down, no doubt about it, I would go with the Domino. Convenience trumps all that other stuff. The Domino is just so fast at what it does, it should be illegal. And Maybe in some countries it is. But honestly, the MFT is a very, not complicated, it's fairly simple in what it does, but you can do a lot of complicated things with it, right? But most of the time, most of us don't need that. So as just a mortise and tenon monster, the domino, hands down.
We forgot to mention Woodworkers Fighting Cancer.
Oh, okay. Oh, shoot. We've got to encourage people.
Yes.
We're running out of time here, peeps.
We are running out of time because October 31st is the deadline. And we have a question from Jeremy who says, any recommendations for the Woodworkers Fighting Cancer picture frame resin that would not ruin small flowers? I don't know.
Ask Peter Brown.
Peter, are you watching?
Peter, help us, Peter. You know, and yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't know how it's going to react with the. Have you tried it and has he tried it and had bad luck with it?
I don't know. That was just the question that he asked.
Because it might be okay.
Yeah.
You might have to find a way to like pre-stabilize the flower so that it doesn't move
Almost
or float.
Hot glue them down.
Yeah, well, not hot glue because I heard someone told me that the hot glue could be a problem when the epoxy starts to cure and it warms up. Oh. It can actually cause the glue to just lift.
Oh.
Yeah,
well, that
kind of
sense.
interesting.
Yeah, yeah.
But maybe you could like spray the flower with a lacquer first and just kind of seal it up and then put it into your
If Peter
resin.
does get back to us, I'll be sure to.
And well, check out Peter Brown's channel too because he has cast a lot of things in resin.
Yeah.
So you might see something very similar to that. Okay, I got one here from Ted Sharfin. He says, this is another question about dust collection and air quality management in the shop. Currently, I don't have a true dust collection system, just a cyclone separator and a shop vac. I do my woodworking in a large shop, open garage doors, so plenty of fresh air, and I use a respirator for personal protection. Over the last 3 years, I've built up a fine layer of dust throughout the shop, and I'm wondering what the best method to combat this would be. A hanging filtration unit, a proper dust collector, or just more manual cleaning. Okay.
Blowout.
Well, I think a blowout is definitely a good option. Boom, baby. I'm not gonna, okay, maybe I will. How's that?
That's okay.
Get a leaf blower, get some fans going, some cross ventilation, and get all that dust out of there.
Put your mask on.
That's not a long-term solution. That's just a way to clean it up real quick. Yeah, put your dust mask on. But I think the air cleaner is an essential part of the process, but the most important thing is collecting dust at the source. Right, so if you can get a proper dust collector and have all of your tools hooked up or have at least a flex hose that you can move around to each tool and collect that way, that's going to be the most effective way to keep this stuff from ever getting airborne in the first place. An air cleaner is for the stuff that gets airborne even though you try to catch it all. It's inevitable that it will, so it's a good idea to have those. But I consider that air cleaner a secondary solution. Your primary solution is to prevent the stuff from getting there in the first place. All right, so if you do that first, then add the air cleaner, then you should be in pretty good shape. And even with all of that, I still get dust on my stuff. I mean, it's never perfect. That's where respirators come in, right? But I still do my dust blowouts probably about once a week. Now that I've got a window up front, put the fan on, open the garage door, and just try to blow out as much dust as I can.
Justin Ford wants to know, is the gaming table build good for a fairly new woodworker?
It's a hard question.
I know.
We get that all the time.
All the time.
Every project in the guild is potentially doable by a beginner. It depends on your aptitude, your tool set, how much you want that thing, you know, how determined you are to just make sure it gets done.
She's crying.
That's a crying baby. So yes, it's possible to do it. Is it your best first project? I don't know. I mean, it's not that bad. It's a lot of mortise and tenons. We did a little bit of, I mean, there are things you could leave out and substitute if you're not comfortable with them. So if your goal is you really just want a cool looking gaming table, you could probably do that one. And you know, if you have trouble and need to come up with alternative solutions, we could talk about that if you run into some blocks.
Well, especially if you want, like you said, if you
really want it,
then you'll
make it happen.
You'll make it happen and you'll learn a lot.
That's right. Okie dokie. Do you want to go take care of her?
Yeah, I'm going to go take care of her.
And I've got like 4 or 5 questions to keep me busy.
I have questions right here.
I got 4 or 5 questions and a glass of chocolate milk.
All right.
All right. Someone says, this is Gregory. Mark, could you explain a little bit about skip planing? I don't have a jointer and would like to learn how to get my boards as flat as possible without using a planer. Now that last part has me a little bit confused because skip planing is something you do with the planer. So maybe that was a typo and you meant to say without using a jointer, maybe without using a hand plane. Either way, I've got some material here. Skip planing is a technique where you're trying to get the material as reasonably flat as possible without truly flattening one face first. So this requires a rough piece of stock that's actually fairly flat to begin with. If it's a piece that's very twisted, the planer, if you've got a twist, the planer will just kind of take it in and spit it out. It's not going to get rid of twist. So it has to be a board that is sitting fairly stable and is mostly flat to begin with. And then all you really have to do is take a very, very light pass, send it through. And the reason you take light passes is because the pressure rollers in a planer will artificially flatten boards. It's got so much pressure that it can actually push it down enough that you're not really taking off the top as much as you should. So light passes are a real good idea. You're just taking a little bit off, put it through once, flip it over, put it through again. You're just kind of cranking down just a little bit at a time. And each time you push it through, the board's starting to approach more flatness. You're taking off the high spots each time you send it through. And the goal is in the end to have something that's mostly flat, or as flat as it can reasonably be. But I can't stress enough how important it is that you get that board in a state that's fairly flat to begin with. Otherwise, the planer is just going to follow all of those imperfections. So one good solution is to grab a hand plane and find the high spots, try to sight down the board, see what's high, use winding sticks. And if you at least give a little bit of attention to some of those high spots, you can actually make that skip planing process go a whole lot better, because now if you can kind of just make sure the board sits stable, it doesn't have to be dead flat, just make sure it sits stable, then send it through the planer on that first light cut, you'll be amazed at how quickly you can end up with a really flat surface. All right, so just a little bit of attention with a hand plane can go a long way. All right, next one is from Peter. He says, "Hey Mark, I just watched your respirator video on YouTube that just came out yesterday. Do you recommend getting both types, or can I get away with owning just one of them for dust and finishing?" Now I showed two models, not because I think you need to, just because this is what I happen to have on hand. So this is the 7500, this is the 6500. To be honest, I'm not 100% sure what is different between these two. They both have down-firing exhaust. Maybe the materials are just a little bit different, but they make a 6500 and a 6500 QL. The QL is this quick release strap, okay? So these are the two different models. This is the one that I bought when I first started. This is the one that I bought since then. I don't think this one was out when I first started using these respirators. So I presented it like this. The reason I have two is because I just keep one dedicated for finishing fumes, and I've got my organic cartridge on there, and I keep this one dedicated for dust. All right, so this is my primary. I use that the most, and when I do finishing, I pull this guy out. So you don't need two different masks. You only need one mask. And all of these cartridges, they're interchangeable. So I just happen to have two because it's convenient and I like having two of them. But there's no reason why you can't put the filters on that. So yes, I do recommend though that you have the particulate filters as well as the organic vapor cartridges. I think that's something that you absolutely must have so that you can make the mask more versatile for you. Aaron Hargrave says, "I'm trying to use my shoulder planes more. They've been expensive dust collectors. Problem is I always seem to have, when using them to make a rabbit, they seem finicky at best. Tenons, I'm okay-ish, but long rabbits always seem to slope down toward the end of the board. What's wrong with me?" They have pretty flat soles, or perfectly flat soles. Okay, so this is a shoulder plane, and it's like any other plane. You have to sort of get a feel for how to use it, because if you put a little bit too much pressure on one part of the stroke than another, you can certainly end up tapering. And that sounds like what's happening. So if I don't know where the taper, if it's at the front or at the end, but let's say his body posture is, and the way he's holding and putting pressure down, it's causing him to actually dig in a little bit deeper at the front. And then as the plane gets a little further away from his body, it trails off and he's not peeling off quite as much. And usually that's just a body mechanics and pressure sort of thing and a practice thing. So what I typically do if I'm doing a long run like that, check it. I mean, the great thing about a plane is that it doesn't take much off. So you can catch a problem before it goes too far. So that's what I would do. Take a couple of strokes, use whatever you have on hand, an adjustable square or something. Check that rabbet. If you need to make an adjustment, do a couple of strokes at the front where it's higher, and then go all the way through. And just try to keep it consistent like that. As a hybrid woodworker, I tend to do most of my work with the power tools first. So the amount of work I have to do with the shoulder plane is absolutely minimal. Right? So usually what I'm doing is just making sure, because at the table saw with the dado stack, you're pushing that piece over, it very well can lift as you're pushing it. So if you have these little waves and stuff in there, it's really great to be able to use a tool like this and just go over that joint and smooth it out and get those high points down. And that's how I do it. And usually it doesn't require a whole lot of working of the surface, so I don't have that much of an opportunity to screw it up. Alrighty. This is from Philip. He says, good morning, Mark and Nicole. It's actually evening today, right? I've got a question about HVLP finishes. I'm building a solid wood walnut dresser similar to Cremona's. I just watched your video on spraying waterborne finishes, and it has a lot of great detail. At the end of the video, you showed a comparison of the BLO, that's boiled linseed oil, before the spraying of the finish. For something like walnut, should I expect that lifeless look without the boiled linseed oil, or should I apply a coat of the oil first? I love the look of BLO, but have never heard of applying that before several coats of a waterborne poly. Your thoughts? Well, it is something you can absolutely do. The key is if you're gonna do that, and I showed you with one of my samples here how it doesn't cure very easily, nice thin layer, give it plenty of time to cure. And as long as you do that, you should be able to put just about any top coat over top of it if you want to. I do recommend doing that to some extent with walnut, because water-based finishes, with the exception of a couple ones, we'll talk about that in a second, don't necessarily give that sort of oil-based look. The chatoyance, that's the fun word, the operative word, that we get from oil finishes and even lacquers. So water-based just kind of looks a little bit bland. So you can hit the surface with a little bit of boiled linseed oil and kind of give it a pre-coat, let that oil sit in the fibers, and then you put that water-based finish on top, and it just looks a little bit better. Now, an alternative to that is to find a water-based finish that gives you a little bit of that all in one shot. So if you haven't committed to your finish yet, look at General Finishes and Durovar. It's one of the few water-based products that actually brings a little bit of that ambering effect to the wood. And I don't think you're necessarily going to need to do this two-step thing. And the boiled linseed oil takes a while to cure, so save the time. I would say go with Endurovar, and I think you'll be happier with the results on walnut. How's she doing?
She's still crying, but it's like that crying. I'm going to check in.
It's late for her. She needs to be sleeping.
I'll check in with her in a second. But.
All right, so my last question on my paper here, and then we can pick up yours. David Kraus says, I always leave, love the show. I always leave with a smile and some useful tips. Could you give me one more tip other than trial and error with scraps? How do you set up your router bits for a perfect cut the first time? It takes me several test pieces to get it right. Well, got news for you, David. It takes me several test pieces to get it right. I mean, there are tools and implements you could buy to, supposedly get perfect setups every time, but there's nothing better than grabbing a piece of scrap and running it over that bit so you can be absolutely sure. Then you just measure what you cut. Don't worry about measuring bit height necessarily. Measure it on your workpiece, because that's actually what matters. Okay, and sometimes your insert on a router table, let's say, that insert might be a little high or might be a little bit low. So it doesn't necessarily reflect what happens when a full-size workpiece goes over that router bit. So get used to that, because that's what most people do. And that's the only way I do that when there's any sensitive setup. I actually have test pieces. And in fact, I've got a crap ton of work pieces here for my jewelry box build. And quite a few of these are just extras. I'm going to mill them just like all the other parts. There'll be extras that can either be used for screw-ups or they could be used for tool setup and practice. So that's why I always mill up extra stock.
I have a super chat from Ben. He says, Nesg was here early and personally asked me to make sure you know she says, good day, mates. And she wishes she was here for the PM
Throw another shrimp on the bobby. She gave me that sticker.
I know she did.
Look, some of my best friends are Australian.
And Vic, our friend Tumblewood Works, came in last show and did a super chat, and he said Bill Buford. I'm not sure why.
Maybe that's the drummer conversation?
Oh.
Is Bill Bruford a drummer? Bruford.
I don't know.
Her name was Barbara.
Barbara.
No, I think it was Barbara.
Barbara.
Oh, that's going to be an obscure one.
Yes.
Hey, whoever tells us what that's from first in the chat room gets a free guild project.
Oh, Barbara.
Yeah, who is it? Go back. I want to see. Am I right? Is it a drummer?
He's an author and journalist.
So not a drummer. Who knows what that was in reference to. Okay.
Oh, I've been streaming this whole time.
Oh, good. Eat up the bandwidth, Nicole.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay.
Nope. Wolf's Grove. Woof.
Oh, that was quick.
Yeah.
Nicely done.
All right.
All right, well, give that man or woman a guild project.
Yep. Email me. That's as easy as it's going to get. So
Nicole at the Wood
Whisperer. Yep. Nicole at the Wood Whisperer.
English drummer. Yeah, see, I was right. So you may have gotten a different one.
Okay.
That may not be the Bill Bruford. No, you typed Buford. That's why I wasn't. That's really what it was, Bruford.
Okay.
There's an R there.
Bra.
Like Barbara. I think it was Barbara.
I love Flight of the Conchords.
That show needs to come back.
I love them so much.
Hey, if Curb Your Enthusiasm can come back,
I heard
that
they
needs
were
to come
working
back.
on a third season. So.
Yeah. All right, let's go. What else?
Dave Price wants to know if you had to choose either completely hand tools or power tools, which would you choose and why?
Power tools.
There you go.
Because hand tools are slow.
Yes. Gotta make it fast.
There are elements of hand tool usage that can be competitively quick, maybe even quicker, but in the grand scheme of things, a power tool woodworker will get more done in the same amount of time. And I will argue to the death on that one. But yeah, I mean, the hand tools bring a certain amount of pleasure to the process. I would miss that. But I think if I had to choose, I would definitely
Anthony
go
says
to power tools.
The guy he believes he's the original drummer for Yes.
Oh, okay.
So.
There you go.
Jeffrey Park wants to know, speaking of Greene and Greene, I'll be taking a class next year taught by Daryl Peart.
Sweet.
Peart. And I'm super excited. Have you ever considered teaching a class in Seattle? Maybe teaming up with Daryl?
Well, I don't just decide on what state and city I want to teach in. It doesn't really work like that. There's no Wood Whisperer World Tour in the works. But yeah, I mean, I have to be invited by a school or a person with a shop, and it has to be the right situation. With the kids at home now, it's very difficult for me to get away. That said, I don't want to say anything too early, but I will, because nothing's official, but I think it's going to go through.
I think you said something last time too.
I probably will be going to Seattle, not to teach a class, but to hang out with Daryl and film a guild project. So it looks like we may be doing I believe it's the Fremont side table or Fremont nightstand that we're going to be doing as a guild project, featuring Daryl and me as the dude behind the camera directing things. That will be a very interesting thing. So that is probably going to happen in February if everything goes through. So I will be in the area. First time. Never been to Seattle before. Yeah. So that'll be cool.
I've been there.
I hear it rains there.
Not all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, it has its moments. Fleur de Splin.
Fleur de Lispins.
Do you have any tips for finishing ebony? I made a pair of chopsticks a while ago and tried finishing with tried and true, but it didn't seem to adhere very well.
Ebony is a difficult wood. It's so dense and packed, and there's just not a lot to absorb in there. You generally don't have to do a whole lot to it. My recommendation with ebony, now you're talking about chopsticks, so that's, now we're talking food, right? That's a little bit tricky. I would probably, at most, hit them with some kind of a oil and buffing process. So it would be a food-safe oil, only used as a lubricant, because I've done a buffing process on ebony plugs. And speaking of Daryl Peart and Greene and Greene, when you get your little sticks of ebony and you want to pillow the edge, you keep them as a full-size stick, and then you can actually buff the pillowed section of the plug and then cut it off, and then you can install that. if you use just buffing compounds and nothing else, you can get that stuff to an absolute gorgeous high polish shine. And it's one that stays because the wood is just so hard. It takes to that really, really well. So I would be tempted to, like I said, use the oil. I like the idea of trying to put something to seal it, but maybe an oil treatment and then a polishing process to bring them up to something where even that polishing helps them resist, you know, penetration of liquid or anything in there. So that would be the direction I'd go. I don't know that I would even attempt to put anything like a thick film on it. Take advantage of the fact that it's so hard.
Someone said, hey, wait, I thought they dropped Festool as a sponsor. So talking about Powermatic and all that. So Powermatic has been with us since 2007.
Yeah. Why is it even coming up?
It just came up in the chat room. A wife noticed, and so I was talking and I didn't feel like typing.
Well, we didn't drop Festool.
No, and that's what I said. We didn't drop
Festool dropped us, if anything.
They changed their direction of what they wanted to do.
Sugar-coated however you want, Nicole. They said I got enough of the spags. We're done. Yeah, we used to have a sponsorship relationship with Festool.
There's even an article on the
Yeah, I wrote an article about it. It's a whole thing.
But it's nothing drama. I love that.
That's the disappointing thing to people. It's like, guys, this is just a business-to-business transaction. There's no drama here.
Stumptown Woodworks just did a super chat.
Super chat.
Happy A-Day. I'm not sure what A-Day? What's it? Happy A-Day?
Happy A-Day. I don't know.
Okay. I love the Flight of Conchords reference. Thanks for all you guys contribute to the community. Well, thank you, Stumptown. Stumptown Racing, sing this song.
Doo-da, doo-da. Very good.
We got 2 super chats. One from Lenny. Lenny and Squiggy Matave, but he forgot to put the question in there, so I'm going to quickly look. Lenny, oops, forgot to add the mission. If in Seattle, visit Starbucks Reserve Roastery and Oak Harbor Honeymoon Roastery. If in Oak Harbor, let me know. Coffee's on me.
Oh, sweet.
So Lenny is in Seattle.
Yeah, I wonder how much spare time I'm going to have.
And then we also have a super chat from, Jiju?
Sure.
But again, put your question in and I'll answer it.
Yeah. Thank you, though.
But thank you so much for the super chat. We have a few other things that I pulled. Oh, anniversary. A-Day.
Oh, gotcha. You know, it's funny. I was talking to Andy when we went to go pick up the planer things, and we were talking about how to expand the guild, like how to make it bigger and to do more with it. So we're talking about the possibilities and how, you know, logistics of how you would get someone that is not me to go on location, film a project, and actually get enough footage that I could create a guild, you know, guild level project out of it. And we were just discussing the logistics and how hard that might be. And then I kind of came to the realization, I'm like, but here's the thing. I want to go to Daryl's shop and I want to be the guy like standing next to Daryl learning from him and watch, because I mean, just observing someone work like that could be an amazing experience. So it's like, yeah, it would be nice to grow the business to that level that I could just be like, hey, you, go here, film that, and then come back with all this great footage. But in reality, I kind of want to be the guy going there and hanging out with this like brilliant woodworker.
Yeah, and traveling the United States is actually a really cool experience.
No, it pretty much sucks. No, the United States is great. It's the traveling part that sucks.
Yeah, but it's neat seeing. I will say, after 14 years of travel, a lot of towns start blurring together.
Yeah.
They'll kind of.
No, I like places. I just don't like getting from here to there.
Sure.
So if we could just teleport me, that'd be sweet. All right, what else? Finish up.
Oh, Ryan Elliott says, I know you're planning on doing an updated gift guide this year. Is this still the plan?
Yep.
It is always helpful to send the link to your gift guides to everyone I know and hope they make a connection. Definitely. In fact,
yeah, we're gearing up for it.
What I did was I put a post up in our guild Facebook group and said, hey, what do you guys want?
Hey.
What do you want?
What do you want for Christmas over here?
So I'm compiling that list and I'm going to mention them by name. So maybe a relative will see, hey, so-and-so wants a domino.
Should we do it like, should we do the whole thing in front of the Christmas tree like we did the first time?
That means I gotta get the Christmas tree up really early.
Oh, that's right, yeah, because we filmed it so early. Yeah. Oh, like you have a problem getting Christmas decorations out early.
Honestly, I'd mix it with Halloween.
She's been decorated for Halloween since June.
That's not true.
But no, it would be funny. It would probably be terrible, but it was that was really fun. It was like what, 2007 when we
made
did that
two.
stuff.
We did one and.
But I'm talking about the first one, sitting in front of the tree, and those, it was cute.
Yeah. And then the second one, I was looking at it the other day, and it has Lexi was on my lap.
Oh, nice.
She's like the biggest dog that thought she was a lap dog. It was hilarious. So.
All right, we got anything else?
I think that, let me just double check because I always miss something. Did you want to say thank you to the patrons?
Thank you, patrons. Oh, I got to get my phone to do that.
Everybody, there was a lot of people that was very distracted by Elmo looking over the top of the bench.
Hey, guys.
Hey, guys.
Yeah, let's get that. Oh, by the way, my Osmo came in. I got 2 cans of this stuff because everyone raves about it.
Yeah.
And I was also informed that it is not Osmo Poly X. It is Osmo Pollux. It's one word. Pollux. Okay? So I have their top oil.
I thought you said the X was big, but it's not big.
Sometimes you see it written as Poly X with the large X. But if you look at their actual product labeling, it's Pollux.
Pollux.
So the reason I'm looking at these is part of my mission to, take as many chemicals out of my life as possible. I actually wasn't 100% sure how well this stuff would work. And in fact, I mentioned on the last time, I just sort of blanketly said that a lot of these hard wax oils are not very protective, right? And then the dude at Worth Doing Well corrected me. He left a comment on the YouTube page as well, that it actually is very protective. And the more I looked into it, I'm thinking like Rubio Monocoat. Okay, Rubio Monocoat is a 0 VOC product. It's all oil. It's a 2-part mixture. Who knows what's going on, but ultimately, there's not a whole lot of protection. And I know a lot of people are big fans of it, but I've done some tests with it, and it's great. If you got a nice hardwood floor and you want that sort of look, easily repairable, it offers some protection, but it's not, groundbreaking. Okay, and I thought this might be the same thing, but as I look at this is not a 0 VOC product. It's actually low VOC. I think it's like 60, whatever the thing is, 60 something, blah, blah, blah.
By the way, you keep talking, people are asking more questions.
Oh, good. That's what I like. Anyways, the point is, I'm going to give this stuff a shot.
Brian wants to know where you got that.
I'm really on a mission to make this happen. This I bought from a vendor on Amazon that didn't look very trustworthy, but I tried it anyway, and it arrived with a massive dent in it.
That drives me nuts. I just want to pop it
Fix
out.
it? Yeah, I'm afraid to, because you could very well split the can. And this one I got from, I don't know, I found this stuff's not easy to find. That's part of the problem. In the US, it's just not that popular of a product.
Where is it made in?
Osmo.
Okay. Well, now Ava's crying.
I don't know if it's...
You need to answer this.
No, we're good.
You need to answer this super chat.
Oh, there's super chats? All right, let me finish up the super chats and we'll get going.
Bye, everybody. I'm going to go take care of my crying daughter.
You're attached.
I know.
I don't see the super chats.
It's refreshing. It was just there. Oh, Brandon. Or
Okay.
Brandles. Brandle C.
Bandles.
Bandles.
Okay, last question.
Yes.
What type of spoke shave do you find that you use more?
There's another one. There's one from Robert, too.
I have 2 spoke shaves. One is rounded and the other is flat. I kind of use them in equal amounts. If I'm doing inside curves, of course, I'm going to use my rounded one. And if I'm doing outside curves, or straight pieces, I tend to use the flat. I would say just based on the kind of work that I do, though, I tend to use the rounded one more. Just because I do a lot more curved work that would require it. Of course, I can't get these things on there like I just had them. Who designed this? Whoever it is, you're fired. Okay. And one more. Thanks for the videos you put out. This is Robert Parr. I've learned a great deal. Really appreciate the skip plane tip. Hey, thanks, Robert. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Okay, so I'm going to thank some folks on Patreon, and we will get out of here. These people helped us out with donations. Let's see, we have Adam Kyle, Dom Uliano, Jordan Peckham, John Hall, David Blaskovich, Kevin Conlin, and Brian Sullivan. So thank you so much, folks. And patreon.com/woodwhisperer is where you can go if you want to help us out, get your questions answered on the show, just hang out with us, meet some cool people, all that good stuff. And I guess I'm going to say goodbye for Nicole. Goodbye, everybody. Look at my high cheekbones. And that's about it. All right, have a wonderful weekend, and we will see you here again next week, Friday, hopefully normal time on Friday. Peace out, yo.